Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Habayta. Today, I am so excited to welcome to our stage Thai Sade, who is the founder and CEO of BloomX, an incredible pollination technology company that I'm so excited to share with you all. So, Thai, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you very much, Shira. I'm very excited to be here today.
Wonderful. So, Ty, first of all, we just spoke a little bit offline about your name Sadeh because I asked you, how do you pronounce your last name? I thought it was Sade, and you said to me, no, it's pronounced Sadeh. And I said, what is the irony that you
What
are
a
in
coincidence.
agriculture and pollination and your last name is Sadeh? So, would love to just share the story of how that name came about.
Yeah, well, it's funny, because me and my wife, we have very long family names originally, each of us. I'm El Grabli and she is Lichtenfeld. And we sort of, we are not going to call our children El Grabli Lichtenfeld. We need to be mature and make that decision for them and for us. And then we thought about a name that we both share love to, and Sadeh was one of them, and we decided to go for Sadeh and to be adults and making the right decision.
I love it. And in that, I'm also wearing the colors of nature today for, in honor of our episode in this podcast. So Ty, I was reading up, I read your article on Ynet and just reading a lot about, what pollination is and how it works, obviously preparing for this interview with you and to really understand your technology. And I think the first thing that just jumped out at me was the marriage between nature and technology. And I think that Israel is just, starting from, the drip irrigation technology that we created everywhere through to the, cherry tomato. We are so advanced in agriculture. So I would love for you just to explain before we start about your solution, just in terms of what exactly, maybe you can like dumb it down for us. What exactly is pollination? How does it work? And then what was the problem that you saw with it that you set out to solve?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, Shira, for bringing it up. Pollination essentially is the process of reproduction mechanism of plants. Most of the crops, plants that we consume today, and especially in fruits and vegetables, 75% and even more of them are relying on insect pollination, which means that honeybees and other natural insects transacting pollen between flowers. So they take pollen from one flower, transfer it for another one, or doing that technically in the same flower. And that what it does essentially mean is that this is the way that these flowers are being reproduced and being transformed into fruits and what we eventually consume. So if I will take it to the plantation, a grower can put a lot of effort and can control irrigation, as you've said before, nutrition, pruning, every other aspect. But one of the main bottlenecks that we see today in the industry is the pollination. That depending on insect and referring to the problem, we have a lot of challenges there because this infrastructure of natural pollinators, such as honeybees and other ones, are struggling to keep up and make that for us as this essential process controllable and sustainable. So that's a bit on the problem in pollination, and what our tech do is basically to mimic the natural pollination process. We're not trying to replace honeybees and insects, but rather we are trying to enhance the natural process. Because if you think about it, agriculture today is not a natural environment, it's a commercial environment. And if you see crops, we have monoculturists, lines of avocados, almonds, whatever we produce, that's a factory. And we are treating that as a factory and the grower the same. And when we put honeybees there that are struggling because of pesticides, because of transportation, disease, bad nutrition, they are struggling to keep up. We need to assist them and to us to keep the production that we want to achieve and that we can achieve with better pollination. So essentially, we're trying to mimic the natural process by mechanical tool that mimic the forces that insects transacting between flowers and themselves, and then controlling the process and bringing more fruits at the end of the day for the grower. So we see about 20 to 25% yield increase in productivity, and that's the gain for the grower. More control, better productivity.
It's amazing. So basically with pollination, just to, explain to our listeners, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I did a little bit of research and it's so fascinating, especially as someone living in the Shomron who has many fruit trees. I have to count how many I have, including avocado, which I saw is one of your specialties. And I have a lemon tree that's just flourishing. But for some reason, my mango tree is not doing so hot. So we could talk about that after. It hasn't given me fruit, but I do notice, and it's interesting because I wonder if it is a pollination issue. I do notice that it flowers. I have a lot of flowers around May, June time. All these flowers come out, right? And then the pollination needs to occur in order for the flower to actually turn into a fruit, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. So, yeah. So maybe if we go to the basic, from each flower, there is a potential to become a fruit. So each flower, I don't know, for someone who doesn't know that space, from each flower, there is the potential to become a fruit. And what insect is doing, visiting these flowers, they are visiting because they have pollen and nectar, which are their rewards. This is their nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that with the coevolution flowers, transacting pollen, they ensure the transaction of pollen to reproduce the plant fruits, which is the reproduction process of the plant, and to ensure the nutrition for them.
Right.
And this is nature.
This is nature. And then there's like male and female, right? So the flower can go through a period where it's a female and it could receive, and a male where it can give, but it can't give and receive at the same time. So the timing of this also, which I think, goes into your technology that I was reading, is fascinating, because the bees and the insects have to be coming at a specific time when that flower is either male or female, and be able to transfer the pollen to the right fruit at the right flower at the right time, which is, I never really understood that concept. And it's funny because I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, in Sukkot, we're always like shooing the bees away. And no, I need my bees. I need them to pollinate for me. So I gotta just move them to the front of the house now. But yeah, so interesting. So just so curious, Ty, how did this come about for you? What is your background that you kind of realized, okay, this is a huge problem. We're going to basically be reducing our fruit production in Israel and around the world, and this is a massive issue with food production, and I can solve this. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a kibbutz, in an agricultural environment from very young age, and like the cliche, specifically for me, I really like that space. I mean, I've been shaped there and like especially orchards and the field work. So I've been working from very young age in that space, and then been in the army for 5 years. And after the army, I opened a restaurant with my mother and sister, mother and husband in Zichron Yaakov. We said at the Nili restaurant, which we had for 9 years. Also coming from a French family, which a huge passion for food is part of us, definitely.
Absolutely.
And so during that time, after several years that the business was established, I looked for more sustainable initiatives in agriculture and food, more environmental initiatives. That led me to learn sustainability degree in a university in Reichman University. And then after that, in the third year, we saw the restaurant, and I stepped into the business development position in a startup, entrepreneurship program. And after that, I felt that I have the skills and tools to kind of focus on that space and finding solutions to challenges I knew. And at that time, we're talking about kind of mid-2019, one of my friends in the north told me about a pollination challenge in his avocado orchards, which was really triggering me to learn more. And then from understanding that there is a pollination problem in avocados, an agricultural problem, I understood that there is a much wider systematic challenges around pollination and the way we are being utilized to our needs for food consumption. And that's kind of what gave me the drive early on to focus on that space. And that's what led me and what we are doing in the last 6.5 years, bringing this solution, more control and more productivity for growers.
But I'm just fascinated, Ty, because it's one thing to like learn sustainability, hear that there's a problem, and then you actually thought of the solution and created the solution. So can you talk me through kind of that process and what that was like for you?
Yeah, for sure. First, mention that, in short, I've been in Zell entrepreneurship program. Zell is, I think, one of my best experience, giving me from really A to Z how to venture by my own, a technological venture in the most professional way, which is a program you can be accepted in the third or fourth years of your studies in Reichman. Really top platform for accelerating yourself and your capabilities in the tech business world. So for me, it was, an acceleration of understanding the processes. And really, it can be from extending your barriers cognitively to seeing globally, to be very flexible and to understand how to ideate, to find solution. And I think that a lot of barriers there for me was kind of a year of a tipping point that after that I was really on shape to be ready and to have the capacity and learning and readiness to venture something like that. So first I feel that I had the infrastructure of doing so. And then when I found the challenge, one of the practice there was, really to understand how to validate the problem, kind of falling in love in the problem and validate that it is a problem. What is the tools to validate that? So early on, we did, me personally first and then the founders, but 4 or 5 months of very deep research, market research to understand the foundation here, that we really have challenges and what are the challenges, which led us to the solution. And the solution was, okay, it's not that not only that we don't have enough honeybee hives, the quality of them, etc., but systematically honeybees are not the natural pollinators of many of the crops that we want to pollinate. So even when you have plenty of them, they will not pollinate optimally. So we need to mimic the 20,000 species of other bees and insects that are the natural pollinators of many of these crops. Because to commercialize them, it's even harder. And we can talk about it, but that's kind of this cycle around insect. And then we had this, mind of maybe we can mimic them, mimicking the process, because I'm coming also from nature, as I told you, growing up near the sea in the mountains in Chof Carmel, which also nature was a big part of my my passion for. So, I looked to nature to kind of understand biomimicry specifically to find maybe approaches that can help us here. And for sure, nature in that sense was the answer. Understanding, for instance, that we can use electrostatic forces to collect and apply pollen, which was there in literature, but then we can take it into something tangible that can create value. That was the kind of the solution and the process that we have done first, and then with another technique for other solutions that we've been initiating.
Wow.
And so I think it was an evolution. It's not that, it's finding a solution and then it's there and everything is perfect. No, there is a lot of validation and iteration and thoughts and back and forth. But we understood that as a concept, it makes a lot of sense. And also from the position of the company, we are not trying really to kind of take nature's role in, pollination. But because of the systematic challenges that we have today in the industrial commercial level of, producing food, which this is the case we're talking about, not in nature as a nature, then we need to find another alternatives to enhance it. Similarly, in the revolution that happens with irrigation, that we can control the drip irrigation because we were needed to manage our water better, similar with pollination. And that's kind of the shape, from us, the concept was a lot about understanding what is working and not, nature, and yeah.
Wow. Did you meet in this process with a lot of growers here in Israel that were sharing with you that, listen, our fruit production is just not where it was before? Was there an issue that it basically dropped over time as insects kind of, there were less insects and less of the right insects? Was that something that you discovered was, wow, across the board, growers are having a problem here?
Yeah, and you touch for sure. So not only in Israel, what we did in the beginning, and for sure Israel is a big market for us, especially in avocados. I don't know, most of the listeners know about it, but in Israel specifically, avocado is still an industry that there is a significant export to the European Union, and Israel is a big market there with very good produce. So for sure, and I think that we also choose avocados, that one of our main crops focusing on avocados is that there is strong relations to Israel. But even globally, we understood that it is a big problem in Israel, but we wanted to make sure that it's a global problem. And by saying a problem, I mean that honeybees and pollination is not in an optimized manner in avocados because the yields are quite low. And then there is a potential to increase productivity significantly if you had better pollination. And then we wanted to make sure that that gap and potential is not only in Israel, but also in Peru and Mexico and South Africa. It is a big market. And we just, called emails at the beginning of the journey for many of these companies, and we've got very good feedbacks. I mean,
I
yes,
wanted to
it is.
stop you for a second because that's my, real business is cold emails. They still work, guys. So I just have to
No,
call that out.
for sure. And look, if we touch really, we just called emails to, the top companies and people that we thought are relevant. And I will tell you not only that, but 2 months after, with one of these companies, which is I think one of the largest companies in the world in fresh produce and especially in avocados, they funded the first trial of BloomX. They put a significant amount of money to bring me and our team to make validation that we actually have something. And we were very early on. I mean, we didn't even have, the smallest prototype, but it just showed us that it is an urgency and that they
Yeah,
don't have really something to
they
do
didn't have
about it.
time to wait. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Wow.
that was the process, a very natural one. And then after that, other companies that reached out to us that wanted to solve their challenges. And from this evolution, validating from small scale to large scale the products in avocados and blueberries, the company started to build its own, success stories and growth. And I think now BloomX is in a very interesting phase of, meaningful growth. And in agriculture, things take time, but
Yeah,
I think you need to build the foundation and infrastructure,
absolutely.
and then you
Absolutely.
can.
So, can you maybe share with us, Ty, a little bit more about the production levels that you've seen since growers have implemented using BloomX? Maybe
Yeah.
kind of before and after what they've been able to see.
So we see distinct improvement of about 20 to 25% yield increase, and also in fruit size, both in avocados and blueberries varieties. And it means from the grower's ROI perspective is that in every dollar that he put on the technology, that he put on the service in the flowering season, because this is our model, providing that as a service, he gets between $4 to $8 back. So we
Wow.
see that immediately, yes. And
This-
that sounds like magic, but we show it consistently. And I think this is the key here,
Yeah,
consistently, year
yeah,
after year, for 6 years now. And that's a process in biology and especially in agriculture. You want to make sure that the consistency keep on. So it's not 1 year or 2 year, it's a marathon, especially in high value crops for such as orchards, which is planted for many years. You want to make sure before you're applying it into the full scale of your orchards that it actually works, and it takes time. And this is what we've been built, in different
amazing.
territories. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So how long does it take for a farmer to kind of see those results? I guess it also depends on the different crops that they're growing, right? But just curious, like, and is there a specific time in the process that they should be starting with your technology?
Yeah, I mean, it takes usually 1 year. They will start in the flowering season. I mean, flowering season, it depends. It could be 1 month in avocados or maybe a bit more. It could
Okay.
be 5 months or 3 months in blueberries. I mean, it depends.
Okay.
It depends on many aspects. But then they have this flowering season that they're using the technology, and then they want to make sure that it has value, which means when they collect their yields, their crops.
Their crops,
And
yeah.
then you have 1 year usually in our space to kind of conclude and see the value, and you need several years in order to make sure that it actually have this incremental value that keeps on consistently, and we can show the value, and that's where we are.
That's amazing. I'm just curious, were there any like big surprises while you were doing your field trials that you then had to be like, maybe we need to make a change, maybe we need to,
Wow,
fix this issue
there is
in your
so
journey?
many. I mean, we're living one of the toughest environment, really. I mean, agriculture and outdoor. is one of the toughest environment uh, for any new innovation and development. And by all means, the terrain, the language, where you are in the world, it's Peru and Mexico, rural areas usually, Colombia, South Africa.
Yeah.
Usually you have all the challenges that you can imagine, and you need to have the best team to win that. So it starts from the people for sure, and the mentality and the values that we have, and there is so many challenges and problems that appear, and you need to be able to keep them up and to solve them. So you need to be minded for challenges and solving them, and
Yeah.
also not avoiding the challenges. You want to make sure that you can systematically solve them for. So I think if I looked at from the beginning, you are always progressing, and it's an endless process. You
Absolutely.
always learn, and you always, even if you have great products that works, and now we are in that phase of having knocking on the wood, stable products that are working. It's still with so many things to do. If you want to reduce their cost, if you want to make them more, I mean, so many challenges and
Never ending. It's never ending as an
correct.
entrepreneur, but right?
Never give up.
There's challenges at the beginning that are, trying to figure out, okay, how do we actually get this to market? And then once it's in market, there's, additional sets of challenges that we
Exactly.
hit every few weeks. So I like to
Yeah,
say that
yeah.
entrepreneurs are solution, are, geniuses at coming up with solutions. That's the bottom
And
line.
also to be, I think this is you touch a point which I relate to in where we are. You want to bring it to market, showing the value, and so you show the value. Now it's starting to grow. So how you
Yeah,
manage the scale, having the
exactly.
capabilities and infrastructure for scale.
Exactly. I was going to
So
ask you that, especially as your specific technology, which I love this. I love an Israeli agricultural technology that is going to change the game across the globe. I mean, I really believe that what you're doing can change the global food supply in the next decade. Like it's unbelievable. How do you manage that? I know you had touched upon South Africa, Peru, and Mexico. How do you decide, okay, which countries are we going to bring this to? How do we need to have somebody locally there to represent us? Maybe you can share kind of that international expansion journey.
yeah, for sure. So first we chose the crop itself from the challenge that you have around pollination, and also what is the ROI and potential once you solve it. What is the financial? I mean, what's the
Mm,
financial metrics and also the trends. So focusing first on avocados and then blueberries. So we have very good fit here in terms of challenges, but also in terms of the markets. We really believe that avocados and blueberries are growing trends that people consume more and more because they are healthy and they become more accessible in the world and people consume them. So we thought that's very important that you'll be in the market, that you're in the right market, right? You are not in a market that can fall and the prices can fall. It's not a commodity. It's kind of a niche or high value crop that people love and pay more. And eventually, if you go to the entire chain, it means that growers have more money to pay for
mm,
different investment. So I think
mhm.
that's very important first to make sure that you choose right the crop you are working on in, if you're talking here about in agriculture. And then especially, I mean, because it's a seasonal based business of flowering, we wanted to create, I mean, kind of long-term activity that we have throughout the year to our capacity. So we start, in April in the flowering season here, July, August in South Africa, September,
So
October,
interesting.
Peru, December.
Wow.
So then we kind of a seasonal business that can throughout that, and then to position the company in winning these two crops and to expand into other crops that we can add value later on. Yeah,
Okay,
that's a
that's
strategy.
unbelievable. Yeah, that totally makes a lot of sense. And just an unrelated question, and this is very, personal. Why has Israel not yet mastered the growth of blackberries and raspberries? Asking for a
I,
friend.
no, for sure. I think
What is
that there,
what is going on with that?
there-
I took my daughter to Italy, and we keep kosher, so it was a little challenging for us. But what did we find that we just could not stop eating was
Yeah.
blackberries, raspberries,
No, I'm
blueberries.
with you. Raspberries is, personally, that's my favorite fruit. I mean,
Where are they here? Where are they? And can you please
that's
help with that, Ty?
that's a very good question, and if you have answers for that, let me know because I'm curious as well. But
For all the
no,
Olim moving here, that is one thing I really do miss.
no, I mean, there is a lot of first different. I mean, it's a lot of investment at the beginning.
Quite
There is a
interesting.
very short shelf life, so
Oh,
it would be like pros and cons. For instance, shelf life that are short, it means that you can only produce it in Israel, so it's good. I mean, then you can
yeah.
have a. I
Come
mean,
on,
you have an
Israel.
advantage.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of, and also from consumers, one of the other problems is that it's not a fruit that people here. Um,
No.
it's not a market. You need to build a market,
Yeah.
and then I think like every other market, it takes time to
Interesting.
build it. It's also in blueberries. We in the last 6 years when we started, there weren't even blueberries here. I mean, it was
Yeah,
nothing, and now
it's
it's
definitely
becoming
newer for
and
sure.
now it's
It's
becoming more and
expensive.
more.
Yeah, it's
So
expensive, but they're available now. It
yeah,
wasn't always like
they
that.
are expensive, but
Yeah.
5 6 years ago they were much more expensive.
Oh yeah. Oh,
So,
for sure.
so I
Yeah.
think they are
We're
becoming
getting
more,
there.
I will not say a commodity, but they're becoming more and more prices that people
Yes.
can then buy. And let's say 3 years, 4 years from now, they will be even cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
That's the
yeah,
plan. That's unbelievable. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing, Ty. I really am so happy to have met you and to just talk to you and learn your story. And for anyone listening, I mean, how would farmers, growers around the world get in touch with you?
well, we have our website, which is bloomx.ag. We have contacts there, and I think also it's our new website. Everything is very visible and clear.
Yes, I love your
And
website, by the way, I have to say. I loved when I was scrolling down. It made it very clear for me to understand the process. So, kol hakavod, it was beautiful and very easy for me to navigate.
thank you very much for saying that, and for sure we'll share that feedback with Emily, our VP Marketing,
Okay,
who was
please
in
do.
charge of that.
Please do.
We'll do that, but yeah, I 100% with you. We worked a lot of that, and so yeah, we have our website. I think now BloomX is in a very interesting growth phase. Preparing our next, let's say, plans for the coming years. There is a lot that's going on, and we are welcome. I mean, any interest from growers, relationship, we're always open and want to be connected. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, for those listeners out there, please reach out to Ty. And Ty, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And I'll leave you with a pun. Keep growing.
Thank you very much, Shira. Thank you very much. And when you're here in Rishpon, you are welcome.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.